Nilami, Niambandi Gumbanga Bari. The Gumbanga culture is the earth itself, the waters, trees and animals.
The forests of northeastern New South Wales are a globally significant repository of biodiversity. It contains some of the tallest flowering plants in the world. It contains some of the richest assemblages of marsupials across all space and time. It contains a wealth of endemic and ancient species going right back to Gondwana land and well and truly into the time of the dinosaurs.
Forestry Corporation is planning on logging this ridge below us. They want to log on both sides of this ridge.
They look at a tree and they're going to see how many tables and chairs and stuff they can get out of that tree. But we look at a different thing. We can see the spiritual value of it, our connection to it.
We've had an onslaught of forestry logging around our area. It's just not on. They've logged Sunny Corner, they've logged Gladstone, they've logged Rickaby's Road twice in the last few years.
This is the common thing with forestry. They just go in and do what they want.
This is too special to be logged. It's 2017. We have to move on.
Kalang Galanga means the white beech tree, which is a significant tree to this area and a very special rainforest species.
There's talk about the canopy being 3 times the height of what it is now.
So when the Europeans first came into this country, they started cutting down the trees, the red cedar in particular. This was not on with our ancestors.
The Kalang Valley's been logged for over a century. It started out with cedar getters on the riverbanks, and then as the land was cleared for agriculture, people sort of logged up into the forest from the valley.
It was followed by other precious rainforest timbers which were generally taken down the coastal rivers and loaded onto ocean-going boats and exported all around the world for the making of fine furniture.
Then in the 60s a road network was put in to access all of the ridge timbers.
So it was accompanied by rapidly increasing mechanisation. We had many tramways built up into the hills. We had the jetty behind us built for loading timber onto ships. During that phase, many hundreds of millions of cubic metres of timber were exported from here all around the world.
The forests that we're looking at now are forests in recovery, but they're still being logged today.
Now the third and final phase, which really concerns us now, is the indiscriminate, non-selective, virtual clear felling.
So there's a real contrast. The valley itself is recovering, and meanwhile, on the ridgetops, Forest Corporation is logging like there's no tomorrow. I've lived in the Kalang Valley for 35 years on and off. I'm very concerned about the proposed logging in the top of our valley. There's a whole lot of it right around the rim of the valley.
When I heard about that, that's when I decided to become involved and come and have a look and see what Forestry Corporation are planning to do up here. But they haven't been particularly forthcoming with their information. So this side of the road is the Barlingen Nature Reserve, and that's protected. They can never log there. But below me on this side of the road is Oak State Forest, and that whole catchment is available to logging.
Plans are afoot in the next 12 months to attempt to log 11 compartments in these forests. The results could be devastating.
We were horrified, so we called a meeting and we formed the Kalang River Forest Alliance, and we've been campaigning ever since against this terrible proposal.
I've had a few run-ins with forestry, just at the Tarkeith Forest, which is along these ridge lines. We found artefacts there. We've registered a few sites with the Office of Environment and Heritage, and forestry have basically ignored it.
They said, they'd be careful, but they were going to go in anyway.
Their attitude to me was, we'll rather take the fine and keep going.
It's dropped all its duties that it used to have to look after the forest for its multiple values. As a corporation, its duty is to deliver dividend to its shareholder, the government. And so the Forestry Corporation can lie and cheat and steal as much as it likes, as long as it keeps delivering that dividend, and that's not on.
There are sacred sites and significant areas all through this place here. We got our ceremonial places, burial places, hunting, gathering places that will all be affected by this logging, and our beautiful rivers such as the Kalang just down here.
Now that you've seen it all.
We're worried that the logging up here will impact the river, because now with the modern logging techniques, they drive to that tree with an excavator and they cut the tree down. So this is a huge amount of disturbance to the soil.
Pick things out, it takes all the ground up, you know what I mean? That's where you pick your bones and that, and skeletons.
I think that's very disrespectful to just come in and look at this land as something they can make money off.
The whole area is just unstable. It's not a suitable place for logging.
In 1995, the Forestry Corporation identified the potential for the erosion of these soils if logged as extreme for the subsoils and extreme for the topsoil component.
That silt's going to come down and fill all those streams up. You know, they then become shallow. The water temperature heats up, you get algal growth. You know, you're just messing with the whole system.
What I always notice when I'm walking around here is the impacts from the logging 50 years ago. There's still a huge amount of sediment in the river. There's logs choking up the waterfalls.
This river and these forests are in recovery. You know, they're trying to get back a balance themselves. They're trying to get that balance back.
The evidence of unsustainability is plain. The Forestry Corporation keep returning to patches of forest at shorter and shorter rotations, and the trees are getting smaller and smaller all the time. Blind Freddie can see that there's something wrong. It's not sustainable.
The more you log, the drier you make the forest, therefore the more susceptible it is to fires. And our climate change fires are going to be just catastrophic.
The best thing we can do to prevent and mitigate global warming is to keep these forests intact and to let them do their thing, to let them keep storing and accumulating carbon. They really are like giant sponges, holding water from the wet periods and releasing it across the dry periods. If the forests are removed from these catchments, agricultural productivity declines. Water quantity and water quality declines precipitously. And I guess in terms of life support functions, our agricultural industries are necessary to feed us. So both food and water are absolutely tied to the forests of the Great Escarpment and the coastal river valleys of northeastern New South Wales.
I could live with some limited native forest logging if it was actually sustainable and if the loggers stayed within the rules. But the Forest Corporation has a long history of breaking the rules. They try to maximise timber production and ecological values just go out the window.
Logging has a big impact on our traditional foods that grow in these areas, so we never take too much. We only take what we need for sustainability reasons, you know. We leave the rest for the birds and the animals to enjoy as well as us.
We're important to them as much as they're important to us.
The people of Kalang live here because we love the area. We love the river, we love the water, we love the forests.
The community members are looking at water quality. We come along and add to that biological index of stream health. We collect samples from the river and then we look at all of the animals that live in the river, and from the combination of both the biology and water chemistry, that can give us a very good indication of how the river's functioning, what condition it's in. The really important components of this program is giving information back to the community who are actually collecting it, and some interpretation of what that means.
There's genetic clock evidence showing that some of the turtles and the crayfish and the galaxias, the ancient fish, are many tens of millions of years old, and some of them are approaching 100 million years old. The Bellinger River snapping turtle is an ancient turtle that has dwelled within the Bellinger River well over 60 million years, and there are some suggestions that it may well have been doing its thing for 100 million years. This narrowly endemic species has recently become victim to a virus, and practically all the adult population has become extinct within the last 2 or so years. It's a globally significant tragedy when one of the world's most ancient turtles should become extinct in a geological instant. Thankfully, those animals are breeding in captivity, but the prognosis for it in the wild is really dim.
This is Myxophis iteratus, the giant barred frog. This is one of our key threatened species in the Kalang Valley, very much affected by dirty water, the sort of dirty water that logging operations can produce. All it needs is a good, clean habitat.
Hearing these birds singing in the background tells me a story, and my spirit feels stronger coming to a place like this.
In the ridge country that they're wanting to log, there are yellow-bellied gliders, there are koalas, and there's a very small population of a very rare bird, the rufous scrubbird.
The rufous scrubbird is a Gondwana relic, and there's only about 12,000 of them left in Australia. The government and most ecologists just simply don't have the time to come up here. So we've been getting support from some of the people involved with the surveys, and we've been coming up and helping.
It's amongst the most ancient of songbirds, and when forests are removed, such as they were in the big scrub around Lismore, Ballina and Byron Bay, the rufous scrubbird went extinct.
It just teems with bird life here, and that's because our rainforest is so intact. The round-sleeved bowerbird is a hybrid between the Regent bowerbird and the black satin bird, and they're not supposed to breed, and they have. This very, very unique ecosystem here somehow is their home. and I'm really lucky to say they actually live at my place.
Despite a century of logging and agriculture in this valley, there are still lots of important threatened species still existing.
Barlingen is our native cat, or quoll. They are an important totemic animal.
The spotted-tailed quoll hangs on. They're very rare, but they are around. They have a preference for forests with large trees and large ground logs.
Down in this area is Dungir, Koala, which is very significant to our people.
What we're seeing is a catastrophic collapse in our koala populations in places such as Clouds Creek, where previously there was a very significant high density population. They're almost gone, and there's strong evidence to support that. Damage and lose the forests, and you lose these sensitive ancient species.
The small return that we're getting out of logging is not worth the impact that it's having on our rivers and on our environment.
The timber industry on the north coast is now in serious decline. What industry is left is highly mechanised, and jobs in the industry are very few.
They lose tens of millions of dollars every year from logging. Imagine if they put that into an alternate wood industry. It'd be up and running straight away.
To look at new ways of doing things, new products that come from hemp and bamboo, and going back to selective logging rather than clear felling.
We had a campaign here 30 years ago, a pro-hemp campaign, and the government never ever supported it.
One of the tragedies of democracy is that parliamentarians have terms of 3 or 4 years, and they're supposed to administer ecological processes and timber growth processes that take between decades and centuries. If the logging is unsustainable, it's not likely to be a problem for them during their term. Somebody else later on can worry about that.
The Kalang River Valley, the Barlingen Valley, is an important place to preserve so that we could still bring people here and pass on our knowledge of the land and waters with cultural eco-tours.
There is more money to be made out of tourism than logging. It's just common sense now. We have the koala here. Everyone comes from all over the world to see the koalas, and right here, right now in Kalang, they're trashing koala habitat.
It's a really dire future that the koala currently faces.
The Australian government recognised this problem, and in 2011 listed the koalas as a threatened species.
Without the maintenance of forest cover and the re-establishment of forested corridors and restoration of degraded habitats, we probably do face the extinction of the koala in the coming decades in these landscapes.
We need to protect, this amazing biodiverse region for now and for future generations.
Community groups decided to put forward a proposal to protect 2 of the 3 koala metapopulations on the mid-north coast in a proposed Great Koala National Park.
Thanks to the National Parks Association and the Barlingen Environment Centre, we've been working very hard to get the Great Koala Park proposal up.
That proposal extended over 315,000 hectares of public land, including 175,000 hectares of state forest, totaling something like an estimate of about 3,000 koalas to be protected.
You know, extinction's happening around us on a daily basis. It doesn't have to be that way. We have the money, we have the know-how, and there's certainly an awful lot of will to maintain our biodiversity and hopefully to improve it, to give it a better future.
If that approval occurred, it would provide a tremendous boon not only for conservation, but for tourism and recreation to the people of Australia and the world. Those forests will be allowed to grow old and provide habitat for a large range of species native to these forests. When fully established, the park will create an extra 300 to 400 jobs in the local and regional community. That is far more jobs than exist in the local timber industry at this time.
I said, put your roots down, put your feet on the ground. You can hear what she says if you're listening.
My ancestors lived in this area long before anybody came here. Values was taught to me as a kid. Today I pass those values on to my children.
I don't want to see the ecology of the valley further degraded by Forest Corporation and their clearly unsustainable practices. It's got to stop.
Our water supply, our agriculture, our fisheries, everything that we do and need is tied to the health of these forests. And most people in our society don't appreciate that. They're urban dwellers who are disconnected from our life support systems, but that's the reality.
It's about our biodiversity. We're in one of the most biodiverse, rich places on the planet.
We've just worked so hard to keep Kalang pristine.
I've watched Forest Corporation continually break rules, and now they're bringing out a new set of rules which are even more lax, which will allow an intensification of logging. It'll allow clear felling, it'll allow much more timber to be taken out of the forest.
It's wrong on every account. There's just no reason to log at the headwaters at all.
It's sad to see because this is such a special area.
Put your roots down, put your feet on the ground.
Just might have to blockade to stop this logging. We need as many people as possible to get on board.
If I was the government, I wouldn't be feeling too comfortable about the future. I think that the forest wars may be coming back.
If we don't look after these forests, our future is a less dignified and a less healthy one.